first trip to the Waorani um, village, although we didn't really quite make it all the way out to the deep jungle because our guide had a hernia and so wasn't really able to travel into the deep jungle. Um, but we did go to the village, kind of, it's, I guess you could think of it as an outpost. It's kind of the last remnant of civilization before you're really just in the remote jungle. There was no plumbing, there was electricity, and it was really an eye-opening and kind of incredible experience. We want to kind of escape into the deep jungle with people that have no contact with civilization because we're kind of over civilization ourselves. But I think we needed to see what we saw um, at this place that kind of represents, I guess, the crossroads of civilization and traditional living. And, um, you know, a couple of things really struck me right away, and it's fundamentally how different cultures process poverty. Because in the United States, where you have poverty, you have a tremendous amount of violence. You have um, a lot of drug use. Ignorance. But in this Waorani village, um, they're they're pretty hard hit, I think, by COVID and trying to adapt their lifestyle to the modern lifestyle. And they actually, and this really hit me like a ton of bricks. I had no idea. But they are not an ayahuasca drinking people. How I missed that in the books over the years is beyond me. Also, I think it's really misleading that there are touring Waorani shaman who go around serving ayahuasca to people. But at least with this band, there are different bands of Waorani, and perhaps there are other groups that do consume ayahuasca. But so what I'm getting at is that this group does not have that um, tourism, the plant medicine tourism that the Kofani and the Shuar and a lot of these other groups enjoy here. Is totally going to miss the Waorani. And I know there was a movie that was made about them recently, the incident with the missionaries where they were all speared, but I don't think that really helped much. And so, but what I was saying about the way that different cultures process poverty is that we did not find it's not like the white trash culture that I grew up around in the United States. You know, the people that didn't have money tended to be really screwed up, angry, ignorant. And that was not the case with these people at all. In fact, they were probably the nicest, most welcoming people that I have encountered in Ecuador. And I think it really says a lot about the influence of the Catholic Church and Christianity, who a lot of people view still, I think, as a very positive influence. But, my observation, what I have for an experiential basis is not consonant with that. My experience has been that in the Catholicized communities, we see a lot of women with black eyes. We see a really shallow, despondent culture uh, that does not really have much direction or purpose, and where that has not reached these people yet. That, I mean, the children's smiles were so vibrant and uncomplicated, because I think, hey man, yeah, and actually, I am feeling a lot better. So I want to thank all you guys that have supported us. It seems that the jungle and modern medicine together, I wouldn't say I'm 100%, but I'm definitely a lot better than I was. Um, we actually do have to move, which is an expense that is not fun. So we do appreciate your support, hitting the like button. We have the PayPal and Zelle and the crypto addresses. We really do appreciate your support. And for those of you that may have contributed to the Waorani GoFundMe, I'd still encourage you to do that, because we're not done with that project. And also because, as I promised, we did actually spend all the money that did not get consumed by traveling and other expenses in that community. And so that is, thank you guys so much for that, because it's an honor and a privilege to be able to act as a funnel to get money into places where people people are really struggling, which was certainly the case with this community. But I'm also happy to report that the knowledge is still very much intact. Um, the children, we went to the store for some reason, I guess, and the children were picking all, they were probably, between 6 and 8 years old. There was maybe like 4 or 5 of them. And they were running along the sides of the road, picking all these different plants and coming and feeding them to us. I got video of all that, of course, that I'll post in the next couple of days. And at one point, we were walking along the road, and I saw what appeared to be like a giant hornet-looking affair, and I don't really know what was going on. There was like 100 of them, maybe, and of course, I didn't know that at first. I just saw the one, and it was kind of dragging itself along. So maybe at the end of their life cycle, they just all are dragging their asses down the road. In Quechua, the name of this insect translates roughly to giant ass, because they have a huge abdomen. And so when I saw the bug, I bent down to look at it, and one of the little Waorani girls saw what I was doing, and she ran over to see what I had found, and she saw bore, 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 and all the kids like took off running, and they're just grabbing all of these, what I later determined was a giant ant, a flying ant, off the ground, and they would pull the wings and the legs off and pop them in their mouths, and they're just eating them like popcorn. And so the little girl brought a handful of them to me, and I ate a raw bug for the first time in my life. I've eaten the chantakurus here, which are excellent. I mean, I prefer them to shrimp, really, and they're much cleaner. The oceans are full of Xanax and oil and shit, so these chantakurus are very clean. And so we did have a couple of really extraordinary experiences. There's a plant out there in the jungle. I have no idea what it really is, but the Waorani lady, we were walking through the jungle with her. First, she sang a welcoming song. I got video of that. I'll post it as well. And they gifted us some of the pottery that they have made from the riverbanks. And so we went through the traditional housing area, and then up the hill into the mountains. And she was showing us, this plant makes black paint, and this one makes red paint. And in case you're wondering why the tribes always have orange paint over their eyes, it is supposed to protect against diseases when they go into the city. Or around foreigners. They don't actually typically wear it in the forest. I don't know if that is also true of the Brazilian tribes that have the same achiote paint on their faces, but that's why the Waorani do it. And so we're walking around in the jungle, and she finds this particular plant, and she starts singing to it, and the leaves start wiggling all around. And I thought, no, it's the wind. So I looked around, and it was still. And so I looked behind me, and there were more of these plants, and they all started to move as well. And I did get that on video. So there are trees that, really, there are trees that you can sing to, and they'll respond. And I'll post the video, I guess. There's not a tremendous amount to say. We really spent most of our time with the children. I was a little disappointed that we didn't end up going further into the jungle, but the reality is that I'm kind of naive. And the trip made me realize a couple of very important things, though. One is that the people that are living in the deep, deep jungle are self-sufficient. They don't really need too much help from us. We haven't destroyed the rivers to the extent that they need meat, for example. And the people that are in civilization, have chosen that path. So the people that really need support and that have been really impacted by COVID the most are the ones that are at the crossroads, like these people in this village where we went to visit. And it was a very difficult thing to witness, but there definitely didn't seem to be a lot of food around. We noticed after, the first day or so that we hadn't really seen anyone eating. We saw someone eat meat once, which is, of course, very unusual because the Waorani definitely eat a lot of meat, monkeys, and fish, and all of that sort of stuff. So it's definitely obvious they've been really impacted. There are a couple of reasons I didn't get a ton of video. Um, and, I really am learning to have more respect for filmmakers and documentary makers that work with people, because especially in, I guess, disaffected areas, at one point our Waorani guide broke down in tears, and I just had to stop filming. I I just felt like a total douche holding a camera while she's bawling, and maybe I shouldn't have done that. My job, I guess, is to be there documenting everything, but it's very difficult to be in the situation and also separate from the situation. But I'm glad that we did end up in this sort of outpost rather than in the deep jungle, so I could see the impact. And one thing that is very clear to me is that although they still have their knowledge of the jungle, they're still able to go out and eat everything. They know still all the medicinal plants. Um, the Waorani, I noticed, had very good teeth for indigenous people. They had all of their teeth. They always have all their teeth. Some of the men that I saw towards the end didn't, um, but we found out why. Actually, oh, it's in the other house. But there's this like long pod that you actually use like a toothbrush, and that's how they clean their teeth. And I guess it works really really well because the Waorani all have great teeth. Uh, and so my mission at this point is to, it's I want to do what I can to help, and so what I'm thinking is that creating some kind of online store, maybe attached to this channel, offering some Waorani goods, and they're trying to set up like a tourist situation, and what I'm struggling with really is the viability of it. It's way out in the jungle, and I mean it was scary. The bus ride. There were a couple of times where I was pretty convinced the bus was going to flip over. Um, Obviously, that didn't happen. Uh, and Yeah, I mean it's way out in the middle of nowhere in the jungle for sure. And so I really want to try to help them do something, but exactly what and how to go about it is difficult. And I really like the ability to go into these places and kind of bring blessings and help people, which is difficult for us because we're struggling. So, I mean, after going out there and helping them and spending the money that was sent on the GoFundMe for that purpose, that was pretty much it for us. So it's really difficult, and I know that this is a situation that is also a problem for organizations, proper organizations that are charitable, that are trying to do the same kind of work that we're trying to do. People are strapped for cash because of COVID. Tourism isn't what it was, and so funding for these kind of projects is very limited. And so what we're actually going to do, I think, and I would rather drag my balls through molten glass than do this, but I think that in the interest of um, making a living, we're going to have to return to Vilcabamba for some period so that we can get some money together and I can create maybe an online drop shipping kind of situation, and maybe try to help with some of these indigenous artisans to get their crafts out there. Maybe I can create a group. There's a lot of tourists coming to Vilcabamba. Maybe I can convince some of them to take a tour out to the Waorani land. The difficulty, of course, is that most people that are coming down here for any kind of adventure like that are interested in ayahuasca, and Waorani don't drink ayahuasca. Um, yeah. Other than that, watch the video. The kids were amazing. It was really great. And when I was running around there, I was thinking a lot about how it would be, really ideal to raise my son around these totally uncomplicated, happy. The children were really genuinely happy, and everyone was kind and sincere. And people aren't bad for the most part in Ecuador, but you can sense a kind of judgment and a little bit of even hostility sometimes towards foreigners. And there was really none of that. Here in the Quechua settlement, you can sense the tension when you're talking to almost anyone. But it wasn't like that, which actually surprised me because the Waorani have a reputation for being kind of... No, they have no plant medicine, which blew my mind. How do you spend 5,000 years or whatever it is in the Amazon rainforest without developing a relationship with any of these psychotropic compounds? In fact, they don't even believe in a spirit world. They don't have shaman. So my plan, of course, of trying to apprentice with a Waorani shaman was just poof, because there's no such thing. And I'm pretty sure that the anthropologists, I always read books by credible people. Well, Fernando, I'm also wondering about that, if maybe Catholicism has cut off the connection, but they have not embraced Catholicism. In fact, it's very difficult for the missionaries to convince the Waorani of anything, because they don't believe in an afterlife or a spirit world or anything to that effect. She was telling us that, and like I said, I did record that much, I think. She said that, there's this world and that's it. And she did make a reference to something that sounded like reincarnation. That was the closest that it came to any kind of spirit world. And that's interesting because, as I've said in previous live streams, one of the most interesting thing about the Waorani is that they have no, or at least they had no temporal designation except for the present. There's only now. And so, it appears that they have in common with the Buddhists this, with Buddhism, it's more of like a preference than an absolute. But the orientation to the present and then the belief in reincarnation seem to be consistent. And what she said is that we're reseated. And I assume that means that we're coming back. So the plan now is to continue trying to raise money by whatever means we're able, and continuing to go deeper and deeper into the jungle. But I need to be better prepared, obviously. We need a better microphone. We need to have money when we come out of the jungle. Obviously things have not panned out the way that I had hoped in time, and so we need to go back to Vilcabamba for a little while, regroup, continue to try to raise money, and set up some online commerce, Shopify or something, some sort of way to sustain ourselves while we're going around and traveling and documenting this stuff. So our next trip, we're going to go deeper into Waorani territory in Coca, and see it's a completely different group of Waorani than the Waorani here, and go to the Usani area, which is deep. Our contact gave us a contact there, and so after that we will go into Shuar territory and then probably keep moving to Peru, because there's really no reason for us to be in Ecuador. Yeah, I don't know that that's really appropriate. We thought about that. Believe me, my friend was here visiting, and he's like, we should dose the Waorani. And at first I was like, wow, that's actually a brilliant idea, but it's not really. Their culture, we want them to retain their culture. That's the idea, and It is mind-blowing to me that I wouldn't take it to mean that they don't have a sense of spirituality, in the sense that they do have an inexplicable level of or degree of connection with their environment that modern people have lost, that modern people don't even believe in. I mean, you have to witness these things firsthand to even begin to believe it as a modern person. I think, like the woman singing to the tree and it responding. I mean, that's just. I'm sure just one day someone started singing and they just noticed, hey, the tree started moving, and you know, um, and also their ability to mimic all of the animals in the jungle. That was really something else. The other thing that will be beneficial about going to Vilcabamba is this bad internet will not be a thing anymore. And, I see people tuning in and tuning out, tuning in and tuning out. I think the sound quality and everything is a bit much for a lot of people. So maybe that'll help me to build the channel back up a little bit. Uh, so the couple of interesting things that have happened since we came back. Like I said, there's more, but I'm going to make a video, so I don't really see any reason to really go too much deeper into it. Um, One thing that I really regret, though, I woke. We didn't get any sleep the first night. There was a dog under the house that was just barking, 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 barking. What border? I mean, yeah, man, it was a surprise. It was a surprise. I don't know how I could have possibly missed that in the literature, and I know that some people, like if you go on Wikipedia, they talk about how the job of the shaman they're definitely atheists. The job of the shaman in Waorani culture is to mitigate between them and the spirits of the animals they've killed, and well, it turns out that's not real. There are no spirits. So even Wikipedia has it wrong. I mean, unless, of course, like I said, there are disparate bands of Waorani. Maybe they have different. Maybe there's a reason they divided, and we're going to find out because we're continuing our journey to explore and document these civilizations before they're potentially wiped cultures, before they're wiped off the face of the earth, which I think is a very real likelihood. And I think, I started to talk about this earlier, didn't really get through it. Um, but what I'm seeing with the convergence of the modern world and the traditional style of living is that, as the kids got younger, they spoke less and less Waorani. So around the house, the teenagers, oh, there's no plan yet. We haven't gotten that far. Um, the teenagers spoke fluent Waorani with the parents. The grandmother still had the gigantic stretched earlobe and butt that her daughter did not. And so it's obvious that as the generations are passing, the culture is getting less and less prominent. They're forgetting the language. The kids that we were running around with, they did know all the plants in the jungle, but when I asked them the Waorani names for a lot of them, they didn't know. Some of them they did, some of them they didn't. So clearly there's some loss already occurring, and so I feel really lucky to so far have had some contact with these people because it's something that we've lost, I think, as a civilization in general, and it's really, I think, moving to see these people that are. I mean, there's just levels and levels of complexity to the situation. But to see how they respond to poverty, whereas in the United States and a lot of other countries, you just associate poverty with sort of this lower class behavior, and that's not what we saw at all there. And it was much less of that. No judgment, no hatred of foreigners. They know about ayahuasca, but they, she told us that her Quechua friends have tried to convince her to drink it, and they just won't do it. It's just not what Waorani do. They don't drink ayahuasca, so they're just not going So yeah, all that was a shock though. But the second morning we woke up, I woke up to this screeching in the living room, and I thought, or well, the living room. I'm using that term loosely. I mean, it was like in the bedroom, which was like just plywood, and there was out of it on another piece of plywood. Um, Very, very rustic, rudimentary house. Um, but I thought it was a macaw or something that had flown into the house, and my partner went out and she's like, "Oh, there's a monkey in the house, and it's a type that we have never seen before." And I didn't even get out of bed. I was tired, and but then the next day I regretted it, and I thought, if you had told me before I came here that there would be a monkey that I could go and interact with in the next room, and I wouldn't get out of bed to do it, it would have blown my mind. Just really drove home the fact that I've been in the jungle for a while, and a monkey in the house is not a big deal. I'm not even getting out of bed to go and meet this monkey. But I really wish that I had gone to meet the monkey. Um, so another little interesting bit, you know, while I've got your attention here, and just in terms of like, consciousness and those sort of experiences of synchronicity, um, I I think that it may be that the algorithm is just this intelligent at this point, because I have a tendency, and this is something that's been lost in the psychedelic culture. My sort of heroes like Robert Anton Wilson and Timothy Leary, and there was this sort of tongue-in-cheek, self-deprecating, arrogant humor, but it's meant to be like, you know, you're making fun of yourself. It's not to be taken seriously. And 20 years ago, within the psychedelic culture, everyone understood this type of humor, and I noticed recently that uh, people always take me seriously, and it's really strange. So I don't know if this happened because I have had conversations on Facebook about that, but this morning I was sitting at the computer and thinking, I don't think that the intellectual class that appreciates my kind of humor has really got much presence on Facebook. And I clicked, the little suggested box. I clicked the next arrow to go to the next group, and it was the IQ Humor Club. And it it really stunned me for a second, because it was just so precisely what I had just been thinking. And so, that kind of thing is either a wink from the universal mind, or it is that the algorithm is just so good at analyzing the data that it's getting that they're going to be, at this point, anticipating our thoughts like that. I don't really know what to think of it, but so a couple of things happened today, though, that were really interesting. One of them is only interesting if you're planning on coming here to drink medicine with me. I went to the market yesterday, and I was trying to get some chaliponga, which is one of the, it's the main admixture plant. There's no chacruna here in Ecuador, maybe down around the Peru border, but not up here. And so Diplopteris cabarena is the DMT containing plant. It has 5-MeO DMT as well, and enough of it to actually make some kind of contribution to the experience. And so I went to the Quichua market, and I asked if they could bring me some chaliponga. And so today I went and got it. And when I looked at it, I noticed that it wasn't chaliponga. And it's not like people to like rip you off here. So I thought, well, that's odd. So we went back, and I said, well, is this from a vine or a tree? And she said, oh, arbolito, so small tree. And I was like, well, that's not chaliponga. And she said, well, no, it has the same purpose. And so chaliponga, you use about 30 large leaves, right? So I said, okay, well, I'm not familiar with this plant, so I need to know the ratios. We use usually about 30 large chaliponga leaves per person. And she said, oh, no. 10 of these leaves for 5 people. And I was like, that can't be right, because it would have to be almost like pure DMT in order for that to be sufficient, right? So I was trying to think like what could this possibly be, and I'm absolutely positive that they're not scamming us and just like, oh, let's just sell the gringos a big bag of leaves, right? Um, no, they were all congruent in their opinion that this is Charlie Ponga B, this is the other Charlie Ponga. So I was looking around on the internet and I determined that it was Varola, and I have totally forgotten that Varola exists and that it is so potent that you can actually just make a snuff out of the ground leaves, and we also make a rape that is Charlie Ponga, ayahuasca leaves, and tobacco, and it's not intended to be psychoactive. It's just like basically the concept behind rape is that you are the tobacco is sort of uh, increasing your receptivity to the presence of these other plants in your system, and also sort of focusing the energy. And so it's almost the same concept as homeopathic medicine, only it's real. I would say is the fundamental difference, and and so that's the idea with these rapes that have these very small quantities of Charlie Ponga and ayahuasca and that sort of thing. It's not a psychoactive dose, but in the case of these Varola blends and the tribes here, and mostly in Western Brazil, do make a snuff out of the leaves of this plant that is blown into the nose in the same way that Yopo is. So we've got a new video coming, and oh, there is another bit of news as well. So yeah, the Varola ayahuasca is going to be a totally new thing for me. I know that it has an awful lot of 5-MeO DMT and NN-DMT, so it's going to be a new experience. So I'm going to do that. I'll make a video, and then also the snuff. I'll try it. Let you guys know what that was like. I'm sure it's going to be intense. It's nice to have my health back because now I'm feeling like I can do these things again. Hopefully I stay well because I have gotten better and then kind of regressed, but I think we have it this time. So thank you guys again. And do please continue to support us because we're really trying to do good work down here and, go to these communities where we were the only money that those people had any chance of seeing. And it was very little, and it was your money. It was you guys that watch this channel and send us money. That's where it goes, when we can. And it's really a good feeling to be able to, help them. They helped me get through a rough childhood, and now I'm able to help get them through a rough period. But I want to be able to do a better job. I want to be able to go down there and really just throw money around and just be like a miracle worker, in these places that are really impacted. So PayPal, Zelle, crypto, help us out if you can. So along those lines though, since we've been demonetized, all these things have happened with the channel. I got an email from Odyssey, which is a crypto-based YouTube alternative, and I have been kind of neglecting it because they didn't have a whole lot of audience. But now they are allowing people to tip you cash directly into your bank account, and they only take 5%, whereas YouTube takes 45%. You guys realize that? Like back in the day when you could send me money through the super chat thing, they would take 45% of all of those contributions. I don't know that people would do it as much if they realized that Google, I mean, who are these sick fucks that, we're talking about multi-billion-dollar corporations, and you have struggling people like me trying to change the world, and they're taking 45% of our money and then also demonetizing us if we try to tell the truth about a political party or something. I mean, it's really insane. So, when I do switch over to Odyssey, I'm not going to live stream on this channel anymore. And I have to do that in order to try to compel people to come over to the other. And I said I was leaving YouTube a while ago, and I didn't do it because it was totally unfeasible. For one thing, the internet connection here that is creating this lower quality stream that you guys have all really thankfully tolerated for so long, Odyssey doesn't come up at all. So it hasn't been an option. When we get down to Vilcabamba, however, with better bandwidth, I will be able to move over to Odyssey permanently, and that way people can actually support creators without Google taking 45%. Also, do still hit the like button and share and subscribe. Another thing, you guys are doing, a lot of people always, or can do, sorry, people are always asking if they can't send money, they wish they could do something. What you can do is join every group on Facebook that has any kind of relevance to my channel and share the videos in those groups, because YouTube has actually barred me from sharing in groups for trying to promote my videos, and my partner as well. So that was the main way that I was able to get these videos out there. And so you'll notice that my views have been dropping again, and that's because Facebook has stopped me from promoting. So at this point, I'm totally dead in the water. And this was our main source of income a year ago, and it's our only source of income now. So it's just becoming increasingly difficult, and so I'm getting away from it, moving to blockchain, and I hope you guys will come with me to Odyssey, where you can support us more easily, and we don't have to give Google any money. So, okay, so back to the fun stuff. So I got this rolla leaf, which I'm really excited about now. I didn't know what to think at first because I had just forgotten about that plant. And so yesterday I was hiking through the jungle looking for ayahuasca, and it's really, really common here. There's the vine, there's ayahuasca is as common as mosquitoes. It's just everywhere. And I was hiking and hiking and hiking, and I couldn't find it, couldn't find it, couldn't find it. And the whole time there's this like voice of my subconscious in my head saying, you will find it, but there's a certain vine that the jungle wants you to have, and you're gonna find it on your way out. So I walked and walked and walked and walked. It started getting dark. I'd left the trail, and I hadn't been cutting, so I didn't really leave myself breadcrumbs to get back. And nobody wants to be lost in the jungle at night, so I started to head out. And so I made it to the road, and I thought, well, I guess that intuition was incorrect. And then I just had this sort of whim, and I went to the left and walked a little bit down the road and just cut into the jungle, and there's a 70-foot ayahuasca vine wrapped around all the trees everywhere, and able to harvest, more than I need and not make a dent in the vine, very old sacred plant. So I don't know if you guys have any questions or anything you'd like to talk about. I definitely have a few more minutes. Otherwise, I have to go and start processing the vine. No? Okay, well, I'll clue you in on a couple of, can you talk about the Kabbalion? Yeah, I can talk about the Kabbalion. I certainly can talk about the Kabbalion. Nice, man. Oh, I know who It's Me is now. That's good, man, because that is some stupid shit, really. There's a reason why it was the only legal drug in a place like the United States. You know what I mean? It is not good. You know that. I mean, it's absolutely horrible. What I would recommend right away is to start creating new imprints in your brain. Okay, you need to take, like, if I don't know what you have accessible to you, I would not advocate doing anything illegal. But if it's legal wherever that's good to hear, Charles, wherever you live, 100 micrograms, 60 to 100 micrograms of LSD, meditate, focus on the in-breath, on what you are trying to retain, and as the oxygen, and retain the oxygen, right? And as you're holding your breath, it gives the fuel to the brain, basically, to do its work. You have the enhanced neuroplasticity and neurogenesis that is allowing your brain to build and rewire, right? And so holding the breath for some set count, 5-6 seconds, and then exhaling a controlled breath, and releasing what doesn't serve you, and keeping the breath distended as long as the same amount that you held it in. So we have an even cycle. We're basically making a cube of our breath. If it's 5 in, then you're holding for 5, blowing out for 5, and keeping it out. And so it's really important also to expel the breath all the way to the anus. Like you want to really, to the bottom of your diaphragm to get all of that air out and hold it out, all this bad air. And if you do that with LSD and this pranayama exercise, you will erase an addiction like that. And please, you guys, if you know anybody that's struggling, share this with them because it really does work. I discovered it intuitively well before this research on neuroplasticity and everything had been done. I just kind of had this feeling, and so I took a tab of acid and went and sat on the back porch on the beach in California, and I wanted to quit smoking, so I just did the process that I just described. And the next day, I'd forgotten, like I had wired the smoking habit out of my life. And I only remembered that I smoked when I stuck my hand in my pocket around 7 o'clock the next evening and felt the tobacco pouch and remembered, oh yeah, I used to smoke. And so for a while I would still smoke before gigs maybe. If I had some wine, I'd have like one cigarette. Yes, actually, Charles, studies have been done, and LSD is the most efficacious of all known psychedelics for enhancing neuroplasticity and catalyzing neurogenesis, which was a surprise to me. I would have thought that DMT would be, but it actually turns out that both in situ and in vitro LSD caused the greatest enhancement of neuroplasticity and also catalyzed neurogenesis. And I know that a lot of people have this sort of inclination to value the natural psychedelics over the synthetic or semi-synthetics like LSD, but I don't think that's really even healthy. I don't think that the opinion that anything that man creates is inherently bad because we have toyed with nature is necessarily true, and that the fact that we could make a semi-synthetic compound that is actually better for certain applications than the ones that exist naturally is a suggestion that we actually can work with nature, create things that are good. So the Kybalion also, and this applies to you, Mr. Eric, for patrons, I have the ongoing ritual magic course. And the next installment is going to be basically about how to really focus and accelerate your progress. And I think we started talking about personalization in the last one, like how, the rituals are to be learned to the letter, and then you are to apply your own idiosyncrasies and individualize them because the defining of the ego, the essence of the self, and bringing it to its full expression is really the goal. We're trying to transcend the homogeneous, or the homogeneity, I guess, is that a word, of the old religions and practices, and create something that retains and celebrates our individuality instead of just doing these repetitious behaviors, and of course, as I'm always saying, it's primarily because religion doesn't really work because you're trying to impose a set of rules on yourself and then go against your will to conform to them. And in the case of the gnosis and genuine spiritual practice, you're catalyzing a process that causes changes, and that is what causes your behavior to change, not just this imposition of rules and some like declaration of loyalty to a book. Speaking of books, the Kybalion, I don't know exactly what you're interested in, but the Kybalion is basically it's like the cliff notes to the gnosis. It is a distillation of the secret doctrine and the perennial philosophy, as Huxley called it, and it is a clue to the nature of the great work. It is probably the single most plain, concise, and pragmatic elucidation of the metaphysics of the adepts of the mystery schools. It's certainly that I've ever encountered, and it's definitely kind of rudimentary, but that's sort of the point. No one knows who wrote it. The three initiates are who it's credited to. People suspect. I can't remember his name, but I actually disagree. I think the guy that people suspect has had authored the Kabbalion couldn't have written it. I think he was a quack, kind of. I don't know why people are convinced that it was him. The connection to the greater mysteries, which would be like the Eleusinian mysteries and the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, is sort of reinforced by, if you look in you open the front page, there's a stamp, and it says printed in the Chicago, or by the Chicago Masonic Temple. And so it was, that sort of suggests that it was actually leaked Masonic knowledge, and that is basically what it is. It is. Aleister Crowley actually said that, there's a crossroads that every magician comes to, and there are two things that happen. One of them is sort of philosophical, and the other one is pragmatic, and theory and practice, right? And so the one aspect of it is that you have to decide which path you're taking ultimately. And, as was the case with myself, most magicians, real magicians, don't even realize that that's what they're becoming until you're basically standing at this crossroads and you realize what's happening. And you're presented with the reality that if you are on a quest for power and dominance, that you can have that you actually have the keys to the kingdom where the sun never shines. And if you want to work for your will and your will alone, you can be empowered in ways that are surprising. And it's not actually absolutely evil either to take the left-hand path. The White Lodge, they say that they don't judge or hate the Black Brothers, the brothers of the left-hand path, because every role that is filled in the universe is a necessary component, or else it wouldn't exist. The universe is not frivolous. It doesn't just create things just to do it. Well, that's all it does, really, but you know what I mean. Within the context of creation, nothing is wasted. And so the Kabbalion is basically, and the other thing that happens at this juncture where you choose which way you're going to go is that your practice sort of evolves from, what does this mean to how can I use it? And so the sort of metaphysical musings of the younger person become the pragmatic applications of, the empire builder. And so the Kabbalion is basically explaining how to learn to relate to the laws of the universe, and the things that you learn through the gnosis and through proper contemplation of metaphysics, so that you can actually apply the knowledge in action. And so, for example, look at the study of rhythm. It is possible to evade karma, right? not forever, but and then the pendulum, right? So there are two elements. There's something squawking right behind me. So, oh, you guys can see it. See that big insect? Uh, there are two elements of what I'm talking about in the Kabbalion. The pendulum swing is one, and this is something that the things that are described in the Kabbalion can generally be easily observed in all systems throughout nature, because really there's only one thing doing one thing, and so the Kabbalion is showing you the different aspects of the one thing and how to relate to them to actually use it. And so the pendulum swing, right? We see this in politics, and we make the mistake of thinking that there are these puppet masters that are manipulating everything for their own purposes, and it may appear that way to them. But really what's happening is that nothing in the universe is what it appears to be to us. It's actually just an equation balancing. It is antinomies, opposite energies that are canceling each other. And I mean, that's basically, look, when something happens, right, on the subatomic plane, we call it the collapsing of the wave. What happens is that the wave is no longer an undulating wave. It is condensed into a point. And so, and that point is not even consistent. It flashes in and out of existence. So that's one of these kind of clues to understanding this. And so when we see the pendulum swing in the politics in the United States from left to right, from left to right, from left to right, the story that consciousness tells us is that it is people being manipulated. It is conflict. It is confused and lost individuals. But what it really is consciousness creating a story to explain what is really just the interaction of these opposing energies and this pendulum swing back and forth. It happens with the cycles of the seasons. You can think of them as being circular, but you could also think of it as a pendulum swing from winter back to winter to summer to winter to summer to winter to summer. And so these pendulum swings are in everything. And then the other aspect of this is the rhythm, right? And so as this pendulum swings, one of the swings of that pendulum can be karma. And so if you understand rhythm, that everything has a rhythm, these cycles are measured in time, and that our consciousness gives us the capacity to relate to those swings and to measure them. And so if you understand the cycles, for example, I was actually just thinking about this earlier today. In my life, I've noticed that there are 10-year cycles, and I know even, at 31, at 41, 21, and also it's something that is taught in the mysteries about the number 11 and how it's magical expansion. And so even from a numerological point of view, it's a thing. And so in their smaller cycles within the bigger cycles, just like there are days and there are seasons and there are years, and then there are larger epochs like the Mayans measured. And so if you can anticipate these cycles and you can jump over the pendulum of karma, for example, when it swings back, if you have learned to measure the cycles. So I hope that was sufficient to kind of explain what the Kabbalion teaches, and it is how to first become aware of these processes, and then how to use the knowledge to actually create your universe, and to, we are empowered by the knowledge that our consciousness has some capacity to mold our reality to conform to our sovereignty. But we have limitations, and it has been said by many wise men that the mistake that most magicians make is to think that their power can do more for them than it can. And a lot of New Age sort of gurus also kind of teach this in a way that oversells it, because that's what they're doing. They're selling you an idea, and people are more than happy to pay people to tell them something that they want to believe. And so the real wisdom comes from recognizing your limitations and understanding that, yes, you can compel elements of your the energy around you and your experience to conform to your will, but you have to make accommodations for those absolute truths, those laws of nature that cannot be suspended, that cannot be altered by any person for any reason, because if they were for even a nanosecond, the universe would come apart at its seams. And so, we have to admit that there are these conditions that we have to deal with. And so the Kabbalion is what the Kabbalion is teaching. Really interesting for me, and this is the case for a lot of people, that one of the things that is the most compelling about the Kabbalion is that oftentimes people have already kind of come to intuit what it teaches, and then when you find the book and you open it up and you read it, you realize that it's just confirming that this is real knowledge, that you're not just coming up with crap in your head, that people have been studying and teaching this kind of idea for forever. And so, there's all sorts of different aspects of it. Maybe what we should do is, I'll do, when I get back to Vilcabamba and we have a better streaming quality, I will go through the entire Kabbalion in live stream so that we can interact while I'm doing it. Maybe I'll only do it for patrons. But we'll go through it chapter by chapter and really talk about what's there, because there's a tremendous amount of stuff that is almost everything that you can use that can be derived from metaphysical contemplation is explained very concisely in that book, and it's all very simple. Like, for example, if you're possessed of fear, do not waste time trying to kill your fear, but instead cultivate the quality of courage, and the fear will disappear. And what it's actually talking about is the alchemical transmutation. And this is really what alchemy is. Alchemy may have been a process by which you can convert one element to another. But it is also about transmuting the lower energies into the higher, turning the lead of everyday experience into the gold of higher consciousness. And one may change his mental vibrations by an effort of will in the direction of deliberately fixing the attention upon a more desirable state. So that's it. So it has been 1 hour, and I still have a lot of work to do. So thank you guys so much for your support. Please do continue to support us. Our mission to interact and document and try to preserve and bring money into indigenous communities is only beginning, and we need to step up our organization and our resources and really make it meaningful, and you guys are fundamental to that. So please hit the like button, share, subscribe, support us on Patreon, or you can support us through the Zelle and PayPal email address, the cryptocurrency wallet address. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again very, very soon.